And welcome to this terrific Tuesday edition of Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. We got a whale of a show coming at you today. We're coming to you live as we do every single day, noon to 2 Eastern, from the Question Tequila Studios. We're in the Liquid Lunch Outpost in downtown Manhattan. To kick off this terrific Tuesday, we got so much good stuff going on today, but part of it is this raging economy. And right down the street here at the New York Stock Exchange, Dow up 120 today, with more whispers around that phase one of the China trade deal is going to get done. That eases a lot of tensions. Plus, I think $200 billion worth of stimulus coming in, and China's agreeing for now, and we know how their promises go, to not manipulate their currency anymore, which will be really good for U.S. farmers and other steel importers, and so much great stuff with the economy. Bitcoin, I mentioned yesterday in my newsletter, the Monday Morning Quarterback, that above 8,500 would be a new stabilization place. I'd like to see it get some support here at 8,500. Could bounce to 10,000. As you know, I said for the last week or two, above 29,000 close brings 30,000 into range. So in the next couple of weeks, we could see 30,000 Dow, 10,000 Bitcoin, and all of our portfolios will be smiling, just like you will be smiling right now when I bring in my co-host and the managing editor of Liquid Lunch, Frank Morano.
Hello there, John.
Hi, Val.
Terrific Tuesday edition of Liquid Lunch we have here for us today.
Terrific, that's for sure. What's happening, pal?
Absolutely. Well, quite a bit is happening, John. Obviously, I know you're going to get into it full throttle in our politics panel next, but a lot of people are watching the Democrat. Well, I don't know if a lot of people are watching, but a lot of people are talking about.
No one is watching, and who is watching is sleeping.
Tonight's Democratic debate, which is going to feature 6 candidates. None of the more interesting ones. I guess if you count Bernie, he's kind of interesting. But no Andrew Yang, no Tulsi Gabbard, no Mike Bloomberg. Instead, you people are going to get to see Tom Steyer and Amy Klobuchar. My goodness. Gag me with a spoon. Yeah.
I know you hate when I overuse the bell, but I had to do something to bring attention to what you just said. Because it's a snore fest. That's for sure. Frankie, you know how mad I get when I get up in the morning and I watch Morning Joke and these other shows and I see how they're already slanting the news. All we hear from them is Trump can't break 42%. Most of America hates him. 70% of America wants him impeached. All this other stuff. That's what they tell us. And the guy walks out on the field at the Army-Navy game. Of course, the military stands there going nuts, okay? Last night, he walks into the national championship game, him and Melania, okay? Melania, stunning, okay? And they walk out there, and the stadium for our national championship game in Louisiana, I don't know if you saw it. Did you see it?
Yeah, I did.
Erupts into cheers. I don't hear booing. I hear cheers. I see they're chanting USA. They're chanting 4 more years. We have that video. Let's take a look. Because they keep telling you how America hates this guy, okay? This is, right there in the heartland at the college football national championship game. And the president is received like he should be.
By the President of the United States and the First Lady.
If you don't get goosebumps from that, there's something wrong with you. Because that's a big part of Americana, rooting and cheering for our president. And you don't hear about that often, but you'll hear about it a lot here. There was also some other stuff going on there, right, Frank? With,
Vince Vaughn is under a lot of criticism. We all remember Vince Vaughn. He's an actor. He was in the movie Swingers and a remake of Psycho and I think Wedding Crashers. A fine actor.
Awesome guy.
And
hysterical.
And so he's being criticized, believe it or not, for shaking Donald Trump's hand. And I have a tough time believing this, but that's apparently exactly the case. Now, I don't think Vince Vaughn is necessarily a Trump supporter. He describes himself as a libertarian. But the president's there. What do? You shake his hand. And that's all Vince Vaughn did. And he's being pilloried all over the progressive Twitter sphere.
It's like he's getting Ellen DeGeneres.
That's right.
Remember
It's
when
exactly the same.
Ellen DeGeneres sat next to George W. Bush and talked to him for a few minutes and threw her head back laughing, and she got killed, just like Vince Vaughn is getting killed. I mean, can people like have friends who don't have the same political opinions? I have them. Why can't these celebrities be friends with the president? I mean, yesterday we got lucky enough to get Zab Judah in here, former 6-time world championship boxer, okay, made a lot of money in his day. Not a huge Trump supporter, but he said, you know what? There's more money in my pocket, so I think he's doing a good job. Why can't Vince Vaughn and Ellen DeGeneres, why can't they have friends who are on the other side? And why can't the media just be fair and say, America, a good part of America does love this guy?
Well, if there is a lot of money in the champ's pocket, you can bet that the guy that wants to take it away from him is Bernie Sanders.
That's for sure.
Who is precisely what I'll be speaking frankly about. Bernie Sanders is running for president, and so is his ideological sister in solidarity, Elizabeth Warren. And they always talk about how they've enjoyed working together. They're generally on the same page when it comes to things like single-payer health care, taxing the rich, all sorts of things. And they've gone out of their way to be pretty kind to one another, by and large. Well, all that ended this week, because this week, Bernie Sanders took the lead in Iowa. He's now the leading candidate in the Iowa caucuses, or the Hawkeye Caucus, as some people call them. And that is not going over well with some in the mainstream of the Democratic Party. You're seeing all sorts of attacks on him by his opponents, by the media, all sorts of people. And CNN did a story yesterday saying that he had met with Elizabeth Warren and that they had a private meeting before the presidential race began. And at that private meeting, Bernie Sanders told Elizabeth Warren that a woman simply could not be elected. Now, Elizabeth Warren, her response to this was something very, very odd. Let's put up her statement that she put out in response to this. She said, essentially, this was a private meeting. I'm going to keep it private. I'm not going to say anything we discussed. But yes, Bernie Sanders did tell me that a woman couldn't be elected. I don't know that Elizabeth Warren's the kind of person I'd want in a foxhole with me. Now, there's no evidence of this. Bernie Sanders denied it. It's a she said, he said at that point.
She gave him right up. A she too.
Well, right. Well, so
it's a she too movement.
Right. So no, it's not, right? It's a she said, he said.
Got it.
Then Tulsi Gabbard, who you may recall was a big supporter of Bernie Sanders' campaign in 2016. She's a friend of Bernie Sanders. She was, I think, chair of his campaign in 2016. She actually resigned as the vice chairperson of the DNC because she couldn't, in good conscience, support Hillary Clinton. She put out a statement. This is the tweet that she put out last night. She wrote, I also met with Bernie Sanders before announcing my candidacy. We had a nice one-on-one conversation, and I informed him that I would be running for president. In that meeting, he showed me the greatest respect and encouragement, just as he always has. Well, you know what that tells me? The fact that Tulsi Gabbard met with him and had one version of this meeting, and that Bernie Sanders is claiming that he never said what Elizabeth Warren said, it tells me that Elizabeth Warren is either being deliberately dishonest or she's conveniently misremembering the facts to exploit gender identity politics in the Democratic primary.
Yeah.
This is
She struggled with this, Frankie.
If you want to look at what happens when you go against the establishment, take a look at Donald Trump, Russiagate, this whole impeachment thing. You want a different style of foreign policy? This is what the establishment's going to do to you. Well, Bernie Sanders is even more of a revolutionary than Donald Trump, and this is what you're getting in response. These unfounded attacks by the media, like people like CNN who are hosting tonight's debate, and others, is beyond the pale. It's completely unfair, and I'm thrilled that Tulsi Gabbard actually stepped up to the plate and told the truth about her meeting with Bernie Sanders. Do you really think Bernie Sanders is anti-woman? Do you think anything in his whole history as a legislator, as a mayor, has indicated any anti-woman bias? Give me a break. Elizabeth Warren, if you want to make it to Pennsylvania Avenue, you're going to have to do better than this.
Yeah, I don't know how people could still believe in her. I don't think they do believe in her anymore. I mean, you know, she lied about being an Indian, and she used that to, you know, as favor to get, you know, she's been known to use different tricky little things to get, you know, to where she wants to go, and maybe, you know, calling out Bernie, she tries to get the women's movement on her side. But maybe, you know, he probably very well could have spoke to Tulsi Gabbard and thought in his head, okay, well, she's got no shot of winning at all, so I don't have to say anything to her.
Oh, so you're buying this Elizabeth Warren
But then maybe
narrative.
Elizabeth Warren, he said, hey, listen, I got to be straight with you. You can't win. A woman can't win.
Bernie
He probably
Sanders,
said
the
it.
things that's so great about him is much like Donald Trump. He doesn't really strike you as the kind of guy that says one thing behind closed doors and then goes out to the public and says a different thing. I mean, the thing that I think folks find so refreshing about both Trump and Sanders is that they say exactly what they believe and exactly what's on their mind.
Yeah, I don't agree with you as much. I don't agree as much as you do on Bernie on that one, because, you know, for years he was going around talking about how millionaires and billionaires have to pay more money and they're not 3 houses, and then, you know, the news comes out that, you know, he and his wife are multi-millionaires, so he removed millionaires from his speeches. He's got like 3 houses, so I feel like he's a lot of times playing the role of the man of the people, but he's living large. He's living like a king, and all he's been is a politician most of his life.
Well,
you know?
at least last couple of decades.
Yeah,
you know.
I don't love Bernie. I think it's more, to me, it's more of an act.
I'm not planning on voting for him either, but I find something so refreshing about him. The fact that he was able to get elected first to Congress and then to the U.S. Senate as an independent. The fact that he was able to get elected mayor as an independent. And the fact that he doesn't care what the Washington, D.C. establishment says. He comes right out there and says, these are my views. And it's impressive how he's gotten the rest of the Democratic Party to catch up with him on issues like single-payer health care and things like that. And if you look at
We'll see how that goes.
If you look at where he is on trade, you know, issues like opposing the TPP, if you look at where he is on ending endless wars, he and Trump are very similar in many different respects.
They do definitely share some commonalities.
And up until recently, up until he ran for president 3 years ago, he was never one of these open borders guys. He understood that importing cheap labor from places like Mexico and Central America, it actually makes working conditions worse for those on the lower economic
Speaking
scale.
with a forked tongue on some of that stuff. Now, we'll get more into Bernie Sanders because he's going to be in the lead. A little later on in hour 2, kicking off hour 2, Greg Kelly's going to be here. He's going to join us to talk about the launch of his new show on Newsmax. Greg Kelly reports every night at 7 p.m. We got a whopper of a show. Rich Valdez is here, as Frank mentioned, Andrew Roberts. Rafael Manguel is going to be here from the Manhattan Institute to talk about bail reform. And all that and more is coming at you in today's terrific Tuesday Liquid Lunch right after this.